All right, I want to thank everybody for joining us this month for our Microsoft 365 for Government user group meeting. I want to introduce to you Lisa Ruff. She comes to us from AppBot. We have met a few times, and I've seen a bit of what they do with bots and within Microsoft Teams environment, which is pretty amazing. And so we wanted to share that with this community today. So Lisa, take it away.
Great, Jeremy. Thanks for inviting us. Well, as Jeremy said, my name is Lisa Ruff, and I have the pleasure of heading up sales and partnerships. Our company name is actually H3 Solutions, Inc., and the product we're talking about and the branding we do heavily is AtBot. So I've been with the company for close to 12 years now, long time history within the federal space and technology. I was at Microsoft as a part of the Microsoft Federal Group for about 13 years. So definitely have a lot of history in terms of working in that environment with Microsoft technologies. With us today, who's going to do most of the talking, is Joe Harris. He is one of the co-founders of our company, and he is also one of the co-developers of AtBot. So pretty much having written part of the product and helping me present on all the technology, he pretty much knows it all. So Joe, I'm going to hand it over to you. We're going to have fun. He's going to teach you about what the product is, show you what we call art of the possible demos that you're all familiar with, and then of course any questions you have, and then also the opportunity to at the end show you how you can get your hands on AtBot, because it'll be that much more fun when you get to play with it. So
Awesome.
Joe, take it away.
Thanks, Lisa. And thanks for having us, Jeremy. Give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Awesome. Perfect. So AtBot, it's what we call bot as a service. So it's a software as a service platform for building chatbots for a number of different channels without having to write any code. So bots, this is kind of our first slide. I think people are getting used to what bots are, and I think this slide eventually will be able to go away. But there's some people that are kind of asking themselves, why would I ever need a bot? Well, bots are really, really good at answering frequently asked questions, and then being able to maybe kick off some processes for a user without them having to dive in and kind of understand a UI or how to do something. So bots can be kind of like that frontline interface for a user to do different things and to answer questions for them. Some typical bot use cases, and this isn't just government specific, but I'll try and kind of flavor this with government, as this is the government user group. You got your technical support, being able to be the front line for tier 0 help requests, whether it's inside your organization or people on the outside who have questions about your organization. HR, customer support. Customer support kind of goes back to that kind of public-facing tech support. So being able to put a bot on your federal website to be able to maybe answer questions or maybe kick off some processes for users who are looking to do something. And then finance kind of ties into human resources. You've got these back office systems that do different things. If they have APIs, a bot can talk to them, can reach into them for information or push to them to start workflows and things like that. And this isn't where it stops, right? So you guys or your organization might have needs that can be fulfilled with a chatbot, and the AdBot platform is there to help you bring that to life without having to write any code. So when you build custom bots, so in a normal development cycle of a custom bot, it's like any other application that you build, right? So it takes resources, sometimes specialized resources who understand, the bot platform that you're building for, the AI capabilities that you're integrating with, and then the back-end systems and their APIs and how they work. It takes time, right? So like any other development project, you've got resources times time is going to equal your cost. And a lot of times these can cost, a large sum of money, which then creates something that's going to have to be maintained. And a lot of times it's going to be a unitasker. You build it and it does that thing, and it might do that one thing really well, but it's not transferable to extend it to other capabilities, or when you want to make an update, you might have to take it down and have maintenance windows and all that kind of stuff. So this is kind of your visualization of building custom bots, and where AtBot is going to save you time and money and resources is its capability to allow you to do all of this without having to write any custom code. So again, AtBot is what we call bot as a service platform for the Microsoft Cloud. We allow you to create and release or launch chatbots in your environment within hours. We have a built-in card designer. So Adaptive Cards is a technology that's built by Microsoft. We work with them to integrate their designer into our portal. So that's a seamless experience for our users or our bot developers. We have deep integration with Lewis. Lewis is Microsoft's language understanding intelligence service. So it's the ability to implement language models for your bot to be able to understand human language. We have native integration with QAMaker. QAMaker is also a Microsoft cognitive service that allows you to build these kind of knowledge bases that are question and answer centric, and I'll show that back end once I get into the demo. And then the execution of logic can be done in either Power Automate, the artist formerly known as Flow, or Logic Apps. And there are advantages to both of these. Logic Apps is basically Power Automate in Azure. It's you get the entire Power Automate canvas to be able to create your flows, but the objects that are created are enterprise resources, whereas Power Automate flows really aren't enterprise resources. Those are more like personal resources inside of Office 365. Again, those benefits, it kind of depends on your use case, depends on what you own in terms of licensing. Logic Apps can be much more cost effective if you don't own the proper Power Automate license. And then all of this can be done without having to write any code. And then we caveat that with the fact that we do have an extensibility story, and it's the same as both Power Automate and Logic Apps. If you have a system, let's say a back office system, that does not have a connector that comes out of the box with Power Automate or Logic Apps, you can build an Azure function and then use that Azure function as a connection to that backend system, and now your bot can talk to that backend system. So the extensibility story, we kind of piggyback how Microsoft does it to allow you to do that with AtBot. So to kind of bring it full circle in terms of what a good bot should be able to do and the technologies that underpin that, a good bot should be able to understand what you're saying, so be able to interpret your natural language as you're saying it. It should have knowledge. It should be able to answer the questions that you have, and then it should be able to do things on your behalf. And the technologies behind this, again, for that language understanding, it's Lewis. For that knowledge, for that underlying data that it's able to know and answer with is QAMaker. And then the logic execution that the bot can perform is powered by Power Automate or Logic Apps. So then where you can deploy your bots once you've built them in AtBot, we have a number of kind of native areas that these bots can live in. The first one, and the main one, is Teams. So as an authenticated user, Teams, the bots can be uploaded into Teams, sideloaded into Teams using the corporate app store. And those bots will know who you are. And when you execute flows or Logic Apps, it will have that information and be able to use that to your benefit. Maybe if you're like, what tickets do I have, or those types of use cases.
This is where I'm going to interject one thing. Is we're very excited because now it's a part, very easy in terms of Teams as a part of the GCC, and also the ability to add third-party apps such as the AtBot platform into it. So right.
Yep. There's a couple of components that are required in the environment, the GCC environment, to make this possible, and that's what got lit up. So our apps in Teams was one. You have to be able to have apps in Teams to be able to put bots in Teams, which is allowed in GCC. And then the other one is our Flow connector. Our Flow connector, or Power Automate connector, is also in GCC. So those are two things that are required, and they are there. And that is not GCC high, just to be clear. Some other authenticated experiences that you can deploy your bot to. You can put your bot into SharePoint. You can use the channel integration framework in Dynamics to put your bot into Dynamics, or you can just put your bot anywhere that can use the direct line channel, which is basically a communication channel for the bot. So that can be any custom website. It could be a mobile app, pretty much anywhere. And then we have the anonymous use cases. So you can have your bot on your public-facing website for anonymous users to interact with. When we talk about Dynamics on this side, we're talking about Dynamics Omnichannel, which is their capability for being able to have the bot pass the conversation to an agent. So live agent escalation. And we support that out of the box with Dynamics Omnichannel for Customer Service is the actual full name of that product. Alexa, you can build Alexa skills using the AppBot platform, and that's native. And then also SMS text messaging. So you can you can have a bot that users can interact with over text. And then the last slide before we get into demo is the architecture slide. So this is important if you're trying to understand where AtBot kind of fits in with all of these technologies. So that top line is kind of your channel, right? This is where the bot is deployed to. When a user talks to a bot, it's going to go through the Microsoft Bot Framework. So every bot that AtBot powers has a Microsoft Bot Framework channel registration in Azure. So that is a requirement. So if you want to use AtBot, you're going to have to create a bot channels registration for each bot and then tie it to your AtBot in the AtBot platform. Then Lewis, we have a layer that kind of sits on top of Lewis, which is the Language Understanding Intelligence Service that does that kind of understanding of what the user's saying and pulling out entities and that kind of stuff. And then once the bot knows what you're trying to do, it's either going to go to Power Automate, Logic Apps, or QAMaker to start executing. So it's either, you know, I'm going to go ahead and create a record in Salesforce, or I'm going to go get an answer from QAMaker, those types of things. So I'm going to go into a demo now. Are there any questions before I start the demo?
So how does that work from, say, a licensing perspective? So you said you need to register with the Microsoft Bot Framework.
Yep.
I know you're not a Microsoftie, but is that require some sort of subscription service to be able to do that within Azure if you don't already have Azure services?
So you have to have an Azure subscription.
Okay.
The bot channels registration you can use if you're deploying to Teams. You can use the free version because the Teams channel is free for bot channels registration. Okay. If you are going to be deploying it to your website, you will want to use the I think they still call it premium version of the bot channels registration, which I believe is 50 cents per 1,000 messages. I believe. All of the other services live on your tenant. So like the Power Automate flows that you're creating to power your bot, those are yours. If you want to be able to use, say, the ServiceNow connector, which is premium, you would have to have the proper license in Power Automate to do that. If you want to use Logic Apps, that would be in your Azure subscription. You're creating a Logic app in your Azure subscription using your tenant. The only thing that is in the AtBot tenant is all the configuration settings that you're putting into our portal, and I'll get into that once I get into the demo.
Now, how does that work for Lewis and QAMaker? Do you know if those have costs as well, or those are?
Yes. Okay. Yes. QAMaker has some kind of fixed costs based on the hosting of an app service that's required for QAMaker. So I think you're kind of baseline cost for a standard QAMaker that's not the free version. They do have a free version that you can use for like development and stuff like that. But for a live production environment, I think it's somewhere around $80 a month, something like that, for the standard QAMaker. And then it goes up from there based on scale, right? Sure. Then Lewis is a SaaS. So it's, I want to say it's something like, you know what, I'm not going to say. We can put that in the comments of the YouTube video, but it's not very expensive.
Okay.
It's something along the same lines as the bot channels registration, something like 50 cents per 1,000 calls, something like that.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let me get into Teams.
And towards the end, we'll also let you know about what the licensing is for AppBot, of course.
Yep,
but
for sure.
First, we're going to see it and have fun with it.
Yeah, so I'm gonna run through a quick Teams demo here. I've got an IT support bot, which is a very common use case. It might be a little vanilla, but it's very common, and a lot of people want this type of thing implemented. So this is the demo that we're gonna do. Then I'm gonna show what's on the back end of that and how it was put together. And then we can go through some of the ancillary slides of price and those things. All right, so with this bot, it can answer some standard questions, and then it can also do a couple things for me. So I'm going to start off with what is the Wi-Fi password? So say I have a guest coming on site, and I want to give them the guest Wi-Fi password. This is using QAMaker. It's called QAMaker Multi-Turn, where I asked a question that actually is the top of a tree. And it will kind of drive me into the proper answer. So I'm gonna say guest Wi-Fi because that's what I was looking for, and it's gonna come back with the answer that is the guest Wi-Fi answer, and that's from QAMaker. So now I'm gonna ask something a little more complex. So I need to have Visio installed on my laptop. Within the government, I'm very familiar with how controlled it is to get things installed, you know, from a licensing perspective, from a security perspective, all that kind of stuff. So this is a software request. So you can see that not only did it understand that I want to have software installed, so that's called intent. The intent is to have software installed. Then it also pulled out the name of the software that I want to have installed. So that's called entity recognition within Lewis. So I'm going to go ahead and just select use corporate license. I need to make flowcharts and submit the request. And that form that's an adaptive card. So that's those cards that you're able to design in the portal. So on the back end, what just happened is it created a ticket in ServiceNow for this request. And you can see that it came back with my incident number. And I know a lot of ServiceNow people will question, you know, this shouldn't be an incident. I am not a ServiceNow developer. So it's an incident because that was easy for me to understand. I think ServiceNow is a great platform, and I think there's a lot there. But I am not a ServiceNow developer. And you can create any type. This could be a request type. And you could have your workflows in ServiceNow do their thing. But for the demo here, it is an incident, and I'm sorry. So I could click this button to get the request status of this incident, but I'm going to do another natural language thing just to show the power of that. And I can say, what is the status of this? Now I could also say, what is the status of my ticket? And it could go and find my ticket based on my username and give me a UI for that. But I wanted to show this entity recognition that is a regular expression entity recognition. So it's a really cool thing that you can do in Lewis is you can set up regex patterns that will pull out entities based on those patterns. And it's really good for things like ticket numbers or you know, things that have a common pattern to them, right? That people might know. So you can see it came back with the status. I'll go ahead and click, you know, view in the self-service portal. and it'll come back. It'll show me the incident that was created. You can see here I created a note here that says this request was generated automatically by the Ask IT bot in Teams. And yeah, so that's kind of the full circle of, I asked for something, it created the ticket. This could, do its workflow within ServiceNow to get that to the right person, to get the software installed on my laptop. So the way all of this works on the back end. So we'll start with QAMaker, the first things that I asked. This here is QAMaker. If I open this up, this is one knowledge base called IT Services. And it's pretty simple. It has just a few things in it. But you can see here, this is that what is the Wi-Fi password? You can specify different ways of saying things. And then this is the answer, where I'm able to link to other answers. This is that multi-turn capability. So you can see here when I click employee Wi-Fi, it will go to this branch, and it will give me that's employee. Guest Wi-Fi. It'll go to this branch and give me this this answer. Now, this syntax right here, just a note, this : syntax, that is an AtBot specific syntax, where it will generate a button on the card when it responds to allow them to click that. And the idea here is to get the employee password. It's a little bit more of a process. And I can show that really quick. So if I say, what is the Wi-Fi password? And then I'll say employee Wi-Fi instead, you'll see that it'll auto-generate a button here for me to click. Clicking that goes nowhere right now, but that's just an example of one of the neat little things that you can do with the AppBot platform. So what you would do is you would line this up with what we call a keyword-based skill in Power Automate, which is a flow that would kick that process off to get the employee password for you. So anyway, this is QAMaker, and that's what powered that kind of question and answer back and forth. Then when I said I need to have software installed on my laptop, the first thing that it did is it understood what I said, and that's using Microsoft Lewis, which is the natural language understanding from the Microsoft Cognitive Services. And this here is what's called a Lewis app. These are intents. So these, when the text is recognized as one of these, that means that they intend to do that, right? So this install software is an intent. You can see to build this, you just have to start typing and start putting in different ways of asking for different things. And you can tokenize these different components, and that's how it recognized the software that I was looking to get installed. And this is a machine learning model, so you don't have to type all the different ways that a user can say it. It will start learning and getting better at recognizing when somebody is intending to have software installed. Then the other one, which was the status, this is the one that uses that regular expression entity recognition. So you can see here, these are the tokens within each one of these is called an utterance. But the entity itself, if we take a look at that, you're able to specify, a regular expression pattern to match for that incident number. And this, this could be REQ, if I think that's the right one. For request, it could, it might be, alphanumeric rather than just numbers, and you would just have to build out that pattern, and then it could start recognizing that for you. So anyway, this is the language model. So then in the AtBot portal, so this is the first time I'm showing the AtBot portal. This is where, so to kind of start from where we were, right? So we have a language model. Now we need to create what are called Lewis intent vectors. So this is, get signed in again. This is what ties those intents to our bot. So this here is what we call a Lewis intent vector. It's that layer that we're putting on top of Lewis to understand these intents and allow our bot to understand them as well. So this is the install software intent. And then I have a configured entity called software name. This is how it was able to pull it out and recognize it. I mean, Lewis pulled it out, but we're kind of normalizing the data for use within the flow that we built, which is the skill. So this was kind of the second step to get that skill. The third step is over here in Power Automate. So this is that Ask IT software request. I'm going to go ahead and edit this so you can see. The trigger for this is that intent vector, that install software intent vector. So basically what this means is when the bot recognizes that they want to install software, this is the flow that gets kicked off. And not only does this get kicked off, but it also has all of the entities that were recognized within it. So if we look down here in a subsequent action, and then we look at what's available, you can see that software name is available as an entity, right? So you could have, you know, multiple entities that are recognized by Lewis, and those would show up in here. So, the first thing it does is it sends this kind of courtesy reply, and then it sends that adaptive card form. So this is just to kind of take a step back. So this connector here, this is our AtBot connector within Power Automate. It's a standard connector. You can find it today both in GCC and in commercial. And we have a number of conversational actions. We have two triggers. So we have Lewis, and then we also have keyword-based trigger. And then a number of conversational actions, like this one's just send reply, which means it's kind of like a fire and forget, send in this text. This one here is a get adaptive card response from user. And so what that means, you can see in this dropdown, I have a number of adaptive cards that I could choose from. Those are designed, again, over here in our portal. If we take a look at our adaptive card templates, and then I'm going to open up this one here, Ask IT, and open the card editor. It's just a drag and drop card editor where I can add, you know, other text boxes, drop downs, radio buttons, whatever. As long as I give these an ID, so all of my controls, as long as I give them ID, back in my flow, I will have access, once I do the get adaptive card response from user, I will have access, just like from that trigger, to all of the things, so the justification, the software name, this one here is that drop down, because it comes back in a collection, it's a little bit generic. And so that's those adaptive cards and how you're able to include them and use them. So we get the response from the user from the form. Another courtesy reply. Just give me a few seconds to process this. And then here's the ServiceNow connector connecting to my development instance of ServiceNow, where I create that incident. And this could be ServiceNow, this could be Zendesk, this could be Dynamics. Those all have standard connectors here in Power Automate. It could be SQL if you wanted some sort of custom implementation, or it could be SharePoint. So kind of however you want to do it. And then this is the final send reply that has the ticket number that was generated from this action up here. And this reply activity here, this is how we maintain bot scope with the conversation that you're having. So you'll notice in all of our connectors where you're sending information back and forth from the user, we're sending this reply activity value there, here, here, here. And that is a value that comes over from our trigger. So when the trigger happens, it has this reply activity value, which is it's an encrypted scope property that allows the conversation to be maintained within this flow. So that's pretty much the end-to-end of how that works. Any questions? No? All right, awesome. So I'll bring up the slides again and go through a couple more informational pieces. The first one is the cost. Everybody wants to know the cost. So the cost to government organizations, as well as EDU and nonprofits, is $4 per 1,000 bot messages. And that's for the AtBot platform, the AtBot platform only. Go back. Anything, I wanted to, I don't know why my start bar is showing up here. Let me try sharing it again, because it is an important note. I guess it's not. So any services outside of AtBot that AtBot connects to, you will have to pay for if they do cost money, right? So Lewis, so your Lewis models, those will be on you, your QAMaker knowledge base, Power Automate licenses, any of the third-party systems that you connect to. I mean, you would assume that you would pick up those costs anyway. But the $5 per or $4 for government per 1,000 bot messages means that every time the bot sends a chat bubble, it's 0.004 cents, right?
And not to overstate the obvious, but again, if somebody's going to be building a bot from scratch, these are the Microsoft services they'd be using anyway. Again, you know, the great value that AtBot brings is tying together all these services without having to write any code. So the development or the building of it is such an easier process, much quicker. And again, the cost that you're paying for the platform is very economical. That's not just my words, as heading up sales. These are the words coming from our customers who are currently using it.
And you don't have to have those specialized resources that build the bots. You can have knowledge managers building bots. Folks who are not developers can build bots using this platform.
And much easily managed with regards to the enterprise portal, whether it's one bot or 50 bots in terms of the organization.
Yep. And here's an example of an interaction that would cost, well, for commercial 1.5 cents, for government it'd be 1.2.
And that's a very chatty bot.
Right. So then security. So what data and where is that data? So the only thing that we store, so we do store a user login name, which is the UPN of every user. You have to, when you do OAuth, our authentication mechanism is OAuth to Azure AD. We only allow work or school accounts, so we do not allow personal accounts. We store your tenant ID, which is required. Any data that you put into the AtBot admin portal, so the portal that you saw where we have those, where you create your cards and all of that stuff, we do store that. The cards themselves, we do store those. Any data that you put into your flow connector, or our flow connector. So any of the not the text that you're sending, but just the trigger. So any data that's in the triggers. The conversation IDs. So this is required to maintain bot scope. So we do store conversation IDs, but we never store conversation content. We do give you the opportunity to harvest the conversation logs. There's no, you have to start doing it. There's no kind of retroactively doing it because we never store them. We give you the opportunity to specify an Azure Event Hub, which is basically an IoT endpoint that we will send all of the chat logs to. And then you can do whatever you want with them. You can use Stream Analytics to stream them into log files or into a SQL database or however you want to do it. But we never store your conversations.
And Joe, we have the I don't say it right.
Self-attestation.
Thank you. So that's something that Microsoft has formalized.
It's a Teams app compliance self-attestation that's on the Teams site. You can look up AtBot and it's there, and it shows how everything is, not how, but where everything is stored and what is stored. And then everything else that you're connecting to is in your tenant. So, your QAMaker, your Lewis models, any of the third-party systems, all of that is in your tenant, and we will never store it at rest. Obviously, some of that information will have to pass through, and it'll live in volatile memory, but we will never store it. And then we're getting into some more specific things, but what I'm going to bring up now is just the call to action. So we have well, number one, there's a free bot that you can find in the Teams App Store called AtBot. So if you just go to the Teams App Store in GCC or commercial, you can find AtBot, load it in, and it'll kind of walk you through how to create your first skill using Power Automate. That is a free version. You're not able to create any custom bots or do any natural language understanding or any of the cool stuff, but it does give you kind of a taste as to how you can build a bot skill using Power Automate. Once you've kind of done that, or if you're looking to do a little bit more, you can sign up for the premium trial from our website, AppBot.io, or you can see it here, AppBot.io/enterprise trial. You will get $25 in credit to try it out, to create your own bots, and that equals 5,000 bot messages, so should be plenty to get going. It does require admin consent for some of the APIs that we use for the bot. But that's, it's well documented on that Teams app attestation. So if, from a government standpoint, probably not going to happen day one to get the premium installed because of that admin consent. But you can always go out and find get a demo tenant to try it out. And then, we can help you with justification when it comes to that. Anything to add, Lisa?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I will say, actually, believe it or not, we've had some companies and organizations that have actually deployed AdBot still with some of the credit. So again, we do give a good amount there. And we have a lot of information, so definitely rich in how to integrate all the different things with QAMaker and Lewis, and we love to help. So from a support perspective, our support is available through email, and if need be, Joe or one of the other members of the team can jump on a call. But again, our goal is to help you be successful, so we're very eager to work with you and help with what you need.
Awesome.
Any last questions?
Any questions, Terry?
For those who watch the video, by all means, my contact is there. As I said, I'll say one more time, we love to help. So please do not hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions. And if it's of a deep technical nature, of course, I'll bring in Joe and the support team. So.
Yeah, I can't think of too many questions just because the presentation made it pretty clear how to wire everything up, which I thought was interesting. And your connector is, if you use Power Automate, there's nothing crazy there. So yeah. I thought it was really good. It really gave me kind of a thought of how to, well, I definitely play this video back to some people in my own organization to see if we can generate some interest, because we haven't touched bots at all, right? I think that's the first thing a government customer will have to figure out is, all right, I haven't touched bots at all. I like the idea that your product keeps me from having to custom code one, which is expensive. I have to hire people, or I have to have people who already know how to do that sort of thing. And instead, I can kind of leverage a couple services in your framework, and off I go. So
yep.
Yeah, and the key thing is also taking, leveraging some of the services that are already been invested in for a Microsoft Cloud organization, instead of, using something that was homegrown or using something that was built specific for some chatbot environment. I mean, organizations that are in the Microsoft Azure and or M365 cloud through Power Automate or Lewis or QAMaker, it's leveraging investments that are already made or will be made and tying them all together.
Yeah. So here's a big question, because Microsoft has a product for this, right? Power Virtual Agents.
Mm-hmm.
How would you, and I know your competitor, how does that competition work? I mean, how does it compare?
So the way in which you build bots with Power Virtual Agent is very different than how you build them with AtBot. So AtBot is we're tying together the best of breed products for language understanding and knowledge management, QAMaker. Power Virtual Agent has their own kind of flavor built in, so they're doing their own. It's all like very tree based. So you build these trees that can have an endpoint that can call a flow. Or I guess they are called flows technically still. Whereas ours is you're able to build a much more fluid kind of conversational way to get to an endpoint. So I showed it really briefly, but we have this order of operations that we go through in order to find what the user is trying to do. And the really cool thing is we have a technology called branching that allows you to it's funny, we say it's not tree based and then we call it branching, but you're able to get into a skill. So something like the software one, right? And you could be provided that card, and then the user could ask something like what type of license should I use, right? And instead of the bot saying you have to fill this card out first before coming back, the bot could have an answer for that in its QAMaker knowledge base, and it could answer with that, and then provide the user the card again. It could even fill in based on the answer. So it could drive them down. Well, do you work in this office? Yes, I do. Then it says, okay, so you're going to use the corporate license. I'll go ahead and fill that in for you. It fills it in, and then they're able to do the rest of it. So it's, we have a lot of capabilities that Power Virtual Agent doesn't. I think our biggest compete point is price, though. I mean, honestly, theirs is 50 cents per interaction. So if you thought about a public-facing website that got, 40,000 people a day, that's really expensive. Right. Whereas ours is, the most you'll ever spend on an interaction, or the least you'll ever spend on an interaction, is half of a penny. Right. And, it could be more than that, but, ours will scale a little bit better than theirs will from
Sure.
Right. So definitely price. And then as Joe said, and I had mentioned already, leveraging, the investments that are there. You might be doing Azure AI in other areas. So it's Lewis for that, as well as Lewis for the bot. Joe did not mention it. We're waiting for it to come out of the dev environment for Teams, but we also have the ability to talk to a bot. Okay, there's my New York accent coming out. Talk to a bot. So you can call a bot and have a conversation with a bot. And we're working with the Microsoft accessibility team as well in terms of that importance. But, it's an aid to all, so it's something that's helpful to be able to call or talk to a bot and drive it that way. And so our platform's been out for 3 years, I believe.
4 years.
So 4 years. Our integration with the forms and adaptive cards is there, tried and true, and the integration with all these things, aspects in terms of the technologies are there, as well as the management portal. So, we always invite people to test it and call us. That's again, organizations have to make the best decisions for them. And yes, I'm biased, and of course, AtBot is the best one. But that's price and some of the technologies.
And AppBot's in GCC today.
Oh, good point.
And PBA is not.
And very good point.
That's true. There you go. That was the primary one for this group.
Whoops. Yeah.
All right. I don't any other questions, Terry?
Sorry, it's just a learning part for me because I haven't gotten into the bots yet, but I appreciate the demo and learned a lot. Thanks.
Great.
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. And thank you for those of you watching the video. If you have any questions, we'll have links in the description for how you can get in touch with Lisa and check out this awesome tool. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much. Bye all.
Bye-bye.